today. She was 80 years old, and I know we're supposed to be talking about Donald Trump, the Supreme Court, mail imbalance, and the midterm elections. We're going to get there, but come on, man. It's Dolly Parton. This woman gave us Jolene, 95, Coat of Many Colors, and I Will Always Love You. And yes, Dolly wrote I Will Always Love You. Whitney Houston version became so huge that I think people just forgot that, but Dolly wrote it back in 1970. She grew up poor in Tennessee and one of 12 children, moved to Nashville right after high school, and somehow turned herself into one of the biggest country music stars who ever lived. Then she became a movie star, then a businesswoman. Then she started getting millions of books to children through her imagination library. She basically spent 60 years becoming Dolly Parton. I don't know how else to explain it. There are celebrities, there are famous people, and then there are people that you can just basically say their first name. Dolly was one of those people. She died today in Nashville, 80 years old. That's sad. Rest in peace, Dolly. Okay, now let's talk about the absolute mess happening with mailroom balloting, because yesterday the Supreme Court gave Donald Trump a win. At least that's what a lot of headlines say. Technically, that's true. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in Trump's favor over a fight with executive targets over mail voting. But here's where it gets messy. The Supreme Court did not rule that Trump's plan is constitutional. It didn't even rule that Trump's new mail voting rules can definitely happen. Basically, the court said, you sued too early. That's it. And now we're sitting here a little more than 2 months before midterm elections with Trump trying to change how mail balloting works, states suing him, and Postal Service caught in the middle, different courts overlapping each other, an election official trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So let's gossip about it. What did Trump actually do? Back in March, Trump signed an executive order dealing with federal orders. One part of that order went directly after mail voting. Trump wanted the federal government to create a list of citizens who are eligible to vote. States would then have to give the Postal Service list showing who they're giving their ballots to. And here's the big part. Under Trump's plan, the Postal Service will only deliver those ballots if the voter appears on the approved list. There are other pieces too. The Justice Department would prioritize investigation and possible prosecution of state and local election officials who give federal ballots to people considered ineligible to vote. The Postal Service would also have new rules of valid envelopes, including special barcodes. So this isn't Trump saying, I don't like mail voting. He's been saying that for years. This is the federal government actually trying to build a new system around it. And Trump says that this is about election integrity. His argument is basically saying that the federal government needs stronger protections to make only eligible American citizens receive ballot and vote in federal elections. Non-citizens already can't legally vote in federal elections. The argument is over how much more the federal government should do to enforce that, and whether the president has the power to do it himself, because the states immediately have questions. Actually, they have several, but the biggest one was, who gave you the authority to do this? And then everybody started suing everybody. 23 Democratic-led states and Washington, D.C. sued the Trump administration. The argument was pretty straightforward. The president just can't rewrite election rules through executive order. The Constitution gives states a major role in running elections, and Congress also has power over federal election rules. Notice who's missing from the sentence: the president. So the states went to federal courts in Massachusetts, and the judge there blocked a major part of Trump's order. That's how it ended up in the Supreme Court. The Trump administration went to the justices and basically said the lower court shouldn't have stopped them. And on Monday, 6 Supreme Court justices agreed. Roberts, Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. The 3 liberal justices disagreed: Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson. 6-3. Sounds huge. Except the reason that they ruled that way matters. The Supreme Court basically said, come back later. The states argued that Trump's order was going to hurt them. The Supreme Court's majority basically responded, going to. It hasn't happened. The administration hasn't finished putting the new rule into place when the states sued. So according to the majority, the states were trying to stop something before they could show exactly how it would hurt them. That's why the court said that their case was premature, too early, and the Supreme Court went out of its way to make something clear. Its decision does not mean whatever the Trump administration does next will automatically be legal. That's important because if you only read Supreme Court allow Trump's mail voting restrictions, you could easily walk away thinking the Supreme Court decided Trump had constitutional powers to do this. They did not. The court basically moved one roadblock out of Trump's way. There are still other roadblocks, and one of them is pretty darn big because there's another court case. This is where the story starts getting ridiculous. The Supreme Court removed the injunction from the lawsuit brought by the state, but that's not the only lawsuit. Voting rights group filed another case against Trump's order, same federal judge, different plaintiff. And in that case, Judge Talwani also blocks the Postal Service from changing how it handled mail ballots for the 2026 election. The Supreme Court did remove that injunction. So even after Trump's Supreme Court victory, the Postal Service still cannot automatically start rejecting ballots under Trump's new system. And then today happened, because apparently this story needed another layer. A judge just said the Trump administration violated her order. The Postal Service finished writing its new mail ballot rules. So under that rule, states will have to provide voter information to the federal government. Ballot envelopes would need unique barcodes. The Postal Service would review ballot envelope design, and states that does not meet the new requirements could have their ballots rejected by the Postal Service. There's just one problem. Remember that other injunction? The one that's still active? Judge Talwani ruled today that the Trump administration violated her court order by finishing its rule while her injunction was still in place. The administration argued that it wasn't actually implementing the rule yet. Basically, yes, we finished it. Yes, we're publishing it, but we're not actually using it while the injunction is active. The judge wasn't buying the argument that finishing the rule complied with her order. She said the administration violated the injunction. But here's another twist. She didn't stop them from publishing the rule, and she didn't lift her existing injunction either. So as I'm recording this today, the rule exists, it can be published, but the Postal Service still can't actually use it for this election while this injunction remains in place. If you're confused, congratulations, you're following the story correctly. And we're running out of time. This isn't happening a year before the election. The midterms are November 3rd. North Carolina has to start sending ballots to military members and Americans living overseas on September 4th. That's next week. The election officials don't just walk into Office Depot, grab some envelopes, and start mailing ballots. These things are designed ahead of time, printed ahead of time, ordered ahead of time. States and local election offices have systems already built around them. Now, imagine someone showing up right before ballots go out and saying, we might need new barcodes, we might need new envelopes designs. You might need to send voter lists to the federal government. The Postal Service might need to approve all of this. And depending on what the courts decide, some of these rules might apply or might not. They might not. That's the situation. And then there's the actual voting. Nearly 1 out of every 3 voters use mail voting in the 2024 election. So we're talking about something millions of Americans actually use. And here's another interesting part of this whole fight. Trump has spent years attacking mail voting. He's repeatedly claimed that mail voting makes elections less secure. Election officials have repeatedly pushed back on that. But Trump himself has voted by mail, including in Florida's primary just last week. Yes, Donald Trump voted by mail while his administration was fighting in court to put new restrictions on mail voting. Politics is crazy. Now, to be fair, Trump's argument isn't that every person who votes by mail is doing something wrong. His administration says that these changes are supposed to stop ballots from going to people who are ineligible to receive them. And there have been rare cases of non-citizen voting. That's real. The disagreement is over how big the problem actually is and whether Trump's solution fixes it without creating new problems for eligible voters. And then there's a bigger legal fight. Even if you think that these are great rules, can the president create them this way? That's the question the Supreme Court hasn't answered. So where are we right now? Trump got a win at the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court didn't declare his mail voting plan constitutional. The states lost because the court said that they sued before the administration plan were final enough for their challenge. Now those plans are becoming final, which means new lawsuits are already coming. Meanwhile, another court order still blocking Postal Service from actually putting Trump's changes into effect for the midterms. And today, the judge behind the order said that the administration involved with the Postal Service finished its new rule, so Trump won. But the policy is still blocked. The rule is finished, but it can't be used. The Supreme Court stepped in, but it didn't step in. You know what I'm talking about? And ballots start going out next week. That's where this ends tonight. Tomorrow, hell, at this rate, check back in 3 more hours. And that's enough politics for one, because I started this video talking about Dolly Parton, and I'm going to end it talking about Dolly Parton. She died today at 80 years old. And that's just weird to say. Dolly Parton is gone, y'all. There are certain famous people who seem like they've always been here, and she was one of them. More than 60 years of music, thousands of songs, movies, Dollywood, all those ridiculous outfits, that giant blonde hair, that laugh, and a whole lot of people who probably couldn't agree on anything else other than Dolly Parton. So yeah, today Donald Trump got a Supreme Court victory. A federal judge said the administration violated her order. The Postal Service has new rules they can't use. States are suing, more lawsuits are coming, and we're trying to figure out what the heck is going on with mail ballots before November. That's the news, guys. But Dolly Parton died today. Rest in peace, Dolly. I'll see y'all next time.